I will find you. You will ask, what will you do when they find me? Don't be scared of yourself.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ashley.
We would like to welcome you to the Work It, You Are Worth It podcast.
We're two friends sit around and talk about healing, growth, and healthy relationships.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Dawn. How are you?
I am good. How about you?
I'm really good today. I'm finally feeling better. So I was sick Thursday and Friday. I started feeling better yesterday, and I am 100% today, thankfully.
Yay. That's good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm absolutely exhausted. This week started my really busy time at work. So it's kind of, you're on late. I mean, I log in or get to work at like 8, and I'm on until, Wednesday I was on till 9. I didn't log off till 9. So it's I'm at a place of 12-hour days for a while, and I'll have to work probably next weekend and the weekend after, but
Oh, that stinks. But it is this time of year for you. I know we do this every year.
Yep, it is. It's that time of year. It's there's a trade-off, right? I'm working long hours. I don't get to, right? I can't take vacation time right now. I can't do, I have to do my job right now. But the trade-off is I get a very good amount of PTO. I was able to take 3 weeks off twice this year.
Wow.
I took 3 weeks off in the summer, and then I just took 3 weeks off for Christmas. Right, I have flexibility from a place of, I have an appointment. I go to the appointment. It takes 3-4 hours. Not a big deal. I just get back on when I'm home, and there's no taking any. I don't have to take any PTO time. Right, there's if I want to log off early, I can. So yes, it's torture right now. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, I'm very, very tired. My butt and my legs are sore from sitting in this damn chair. But just the flexibility I have the rest of the year is very, very worth it.
2 things to say to that. 1, I challenge you to stop saying but and start saying and, because both are valid.
True.
2, this is the first year. We've known each other at this time for 3 years now, and this is the first year that I have heard you say, and here's all the reasons why I'm grateful for what I have. Like,
It's
without
hard.
prompting, without anything, like, you are just naturally finding the gratitude followed by the negative now.
Yeah. I am. It's hard to, right, when I'm in the moment. Now, if you would have asked me Tuesday or Wednesday night when I was exhausted and I was like, oh God, this is so annoying, blah, blah, blah. But it's never a conversation, even a conversation with myself that I would not keep my job, right? If I really hated it, I would just get a different job. But that means I would have to get a different career. I'm an accountant, right? We are busy at the beginning of the year. But yeah, and I am grateful, and you're right, I should say and but, and it's so funny. It's really weird sometimes. Have you noticed that I'll be talking about something and I'll just say but, and I won't even think about it. But then there's other times when I say it, I'll be like, oh no, and.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it'll just fall in and. It's just, I think that's really odd, and I need to do some self-reflection on that, on which times I do that. I need to be more aware of that.
For me, I know, like, I do the same thing, and that's part of the reason it caught my attention. And it's one of those things, how I always get something that I get stuck on for a few weeks at a time, and
Yeah.
it tends to help me greatly. That is one of the things I am stuck on right now is when I say the word but, it means ignore everything I just said, and here's what I really mean.
Right.
And I don't want to mean that ever. I don't ever want somebody to ignore what I just said. I mean what I just said. I don't say it unless I mean it, or at least I'm trying to.
Yeah.
And both things are valid. So when I say that, but I'm invalidating something I just said.
Which tells ourselves a lot when we do that, right? And I'm big on words, right? We've talked about the stupid, we've talked about sorry, right? These are things that we just flippantly would say. And it's like, no, take those out of your vocabulary towards yourself, because that'll change your mindset towards yourself. And I think but is another one of those words where if I say but, I'm negating something I said. And what does that tell me? Right? It might not be saying, flat out in my face, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not this. But there is that.
Right, I'm saying something I don't mean, or I'm taking back something I've said. I'm rejecting myself.
Right.
I'm abandoning myself, whichever.
Right.
And focusing on how we are speaking and what we are saying, how we are saying what we are saying, helps us to be mindful in the present moment. Like, it helps keep me in the here and now instead of responding on autopilot, because I'm making sure that I'm not calling names or beating someone down, or, right, I'm focused on the words coming out of my mouth and the thoughts. So I'm not off in some other world worrying about work or JoJo when really I'm talking to Johnny,
Yeah, it's interesting you said. So the other night after the meeting, we stayed on for fellowship, and I did stay on for a little while, and because the meeting ended up ending at like 8:40, about 8:50.
Yeah, no, I ducked out at 8:30. I was tired.
Yeah. So during fellowship, there was this one person, and I actually have mentioned him before. He's new, so he came back to the meeting, and he was telling us all of this story. So it was myself and the one person that we just love in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I already know.
So it's a gentleman, but he stayed on as well. So he was on the first time we had this conversation. So he was on the second time we had this conversation. And this person.
I wish I would have stayed on and been a fly on the wall in this conversation, because I remember the person. I remember the conversation. I know the other person you're talking about. And you. I would have loved to be a fourth party in this room.
So the first time, I was the more truthful, honest, real person.
You were the sponsor. You were the recovery mentor.
Yes. And the other person that was much nicer. And this time, it was the opposite. At one point, he said, "We had this conversation a few weeks ago, and Dawn called you out on this, and now I'm gonna say that I'm calling you out on this because you're da 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 da." At one point, it was very funny because he hadn't grown, and anyways, I mean, he's new, right? He's only been in the program for a few months.
Right, it takes time.
Yes, but one of the things he said was that his wife, when I try to apologize, I try to say I'm sorry, and she just gets mad. Like, I just don't mean that. You don't mean it. You're just saying it to get over that. And I'm like, well, do you? And I said, because one of the things I've learned a long time ago, we naturally just say sorry, and there's no intention behind it. It's just like, oh, I'm sorry. I've told myself I'm sorry. So, right?
When we were kids, the words "I'm sorry" were these magical words that all of a sudden just fixed everything. So we didn't consider it. When we screwed up, we threw it out there. Sorry. And
expected to fix everything.
Right. And as we became adults, we realized, or at least some of us realized, those words really aren't that magical, and they don't fix anything.
So this person's wife is getting mad because he's saying it, and she's not feeling like he really truly is sorry. And I was like, and so he, of course, he says, well, I just don't, she this and she this, very much, putting it on her. And, I said to him, why are you just saying I'm sorry? When she's going on and on and on and you're saying I'm sorry, are you just saying it because you want the situation to stop? Well, no. I says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry I did it. I said, but are you? I said, we so often will just know, and this is kind of actually alludes to the conversation we had before we started recording, right? Are we intentionally doing something? Are you intentionally saying I'm sorry because you regret something you did? Or are you unintentionally trying to get this argument to stop?
Right. So my aunt had 3 requirements that she taught my cousins. I remember them to this day, and I still live by them. I'll never forget. I was probably, 8 or 9 the first time I heard this. There are 3 requirements you must have in order to say I'm sorry. And they are not anything somebody else can give you. You must have them within yourself. 1 is a feeling of remorse or regret or guilt. 2, empathy and understanding of exactly what it was that was done wrong. And 3, the intention to change the behaviors and the actions to not do this thing again. If those 3 things are not inside of me, then the words I'm sorry mean absolutely nothing. And I think this was only like 1 or 2 times, right? This is one weekend. Maybe I spent the night at my aunt's house with my cousins, and we were 8 or 9 years old. So my cousins would get into fights, they're boys, or I would get involved and she would have to play referee. And this was the only weekend I think I ever heard her say that, but it stuck with me so hard. And my cousins, both of them, are such amazing men that when I consider how they are, who they are, a lot of it has to do with that, right? Being able to put down that ego, being able to put down that defensiveness and that I'm not wrong, and being able to acknowledge somebody else. That's so important. And it's so needed in relationships. 50% of marriages end in divorce, right? That's probably because 50% of people in this society do not know how to put that ego, that I'm a good person, I'm not wrong, I'm better, I'm whatever. That ego needs to be able to be put down to say, you're not telling me I'm wrong, you're telling me you're hurt, and I don't want you to be hurt. So whether or not you believe that I hurt you, I need to put away that defensiveness and say, I want you to feel better. How can I help you? It's not about right or wrong. It's about hearing the other person and acknowledging what they are saying and what they are feeling.
So you keep saying the word ego. So I want to actually, let's give the definition of ego, because we do like to do that. We like to give definitions. So the definition from Webster's, I think this is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
Oh, I like that. That is your ego. That is my ego right there. A sense of a person's self-esteem or self-importance. That's it.
So one of the things we told this guy was, and I loved you alluded to it while you were talking, right? It's not hearing, he was not stopping, hearing what she was saying and processing it, and then saying, oh, I apologize. I hear what you're saying regarding ... And I truly am sorry for what I did or what I said or whatever. Even if maybe you don't even need to apologize, right? I'm just saying, let's say you did, right?
Right? Maybe I'm not sorry for what I said or what I did, but maybe I'm sorry for how it made you feel.
Right.
I didn't want you to feel hurt or unheard. I just wanted to make you feel better. And so I threw words out that I thought would make you feel better without ever actually considering how you felt.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was it was a very interesting conversation. So I would suggest the nights that this gentleman is on, stay on. It's very interesting conversation. And obviously, yes, it's always fun with the other person. So,
Yeah, no. So, right, what brought all this up was I watched I don't know, one of those Facebook videos this morning. And it talked about how to have a disagreement without that defensiveness, right? Without going on the attack. And it brought me back to a situation where I didn't even realize that my ego had taken control. So about 7 months ago now, actually it was about 4 months ago now, Nick and I had a conversation. And at this point, we were already in a pretty bad place, right? He was about as shut down as they could come, and I was about as tired of reaching out as they could come, right? So during this communication, I wouldn't call it a conversation because that's not what it was, but during this communication, he actually told me that he didn't feel safe. And I didn't hear that. I heard it. Oh, I heard it. I heard it loud and clear. And boy, did I show him just how right he was. It doesn't matter why he didn't feel safe. It doesn't matter if I have spent 17 years trying to be his safe place. It doesn't matter if I considered myself the safest human being in the world. None of that mattered in that moment. In that moment, what mattered was that this man had come to me and had opened up to me and had been vulnerable enough to tell me that he didn't feel safe. Boy, I took that, and in my head, I turned it into me not being safe. And I got so angry and defensive that I became unsafe. I think I looked at him and I yelled. My exact words were, "What the F do you think I'm going to do? Punch you in your face?" And I got up and I walked away. And then I came back maybe, I don't know, a little while later, and I was like, "Listen, I'm done. That's it. I'm done. You don't feel safe? Go be not safe somewhere else." That day, I knew I had reacted wrong, right? I knew that I had not been the best version of me. But I still could not see, literally until this morning, I could not see how I had allowed my ego to completely take over, and it turned me into somebody completely different than I wanted to be.
Something you said, and I want to, it really goes along with eat your ego. And it's funny because when we decided what we were going to talk about, I actually said I was going to share a story about Mark that happened this week that kind of was along the same lines. So I will share that later, but I really want to actually bring up what I heard you say. So your ego has been so self-involved with Nick that you have been trying to be his safe place.
Oh, hell yeah. God, yes. For a very long time, I attempted to be. Like, I went out of my way, literally, to do things that I didn't want to, that I didn't like, that I was uncomfortable with, just so he would feel safe opening up to me and allowing me to, like, right? Just so he would feel safe sharing with me.
And it's right. You're in your head. It's all about him. I'm trying to do this for him. I'm trying to do for this for him. I'm trying to do this for him. But what's the first word of that sentence?
Right. It was all me. I.
Right?
In reality, I wasn't doing it to be his safe place. In reality, subconsciously, I was doing it to prevent him from ever leaving. I was terrified of abandonment. I was terrified of rejection. And if I could be his safe place, if he knew that no matter what, I would always be here, then he would never leave. Then he would never reject me. So the reality of it was nothing but ego all the way through from the very beginning. But I couldn't see that. Literally until just this morning. I couldn't see it.
Was that bad that you just realized that kind of this morning?
Are you kidding? I'm amazed. I'm so proud of myself for being able to see it. Listen, it sucks, right? It hurts to be able to look back on that conversation and to look back on that time and to realize that I became the exact opposite of who I am. Sucks. And it was a 17-year relationship ending. It was an emotional period. I had never been through anything like that before. Of course, I didn't do it perfectly. I was learning. Hell, I am learning. No, it's not bad that I saw it this morning. It's amazing that I saw it this morning. Because seeing it gives me a chance to never do it again. Seeing it gives me a chance to change it and to acknowledge it and to learn from it.
So you have an opportunity of growth.
Yeah, I do. And it's not easy, right? Putting that ego aside and putting away all of the reasons why I got to the point that I got to. It's not easy, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter why I became unsafe. It doesn't matter why I became someone I am not in that moment. It matters that I did it. And it matters that I see it. And it matters that I change it. Those are the only things that matter.
So I'll share my story about what happened this week. So my ex-husband, for those that are new, we've been divorced 10 years, and it was not a good, healthy relationship when we were together. And throughout, he has continued to like kind of not show up for Colin and Dylan. And so Colin started his classes last week, would have been, 2 weeks ago now. And I had asked Mark, because I was going to be so busy, hey, can you take Colin to class and pick him up? Context, Mark's office where he works is 4 blocks from where Colin's class is. He's that close to school. So I'm like, would you be able to? He's like, well, I work from home those days. Well, I understand, but would you be able to pick him up, just go to the office and work, and then bring him home? Otherwise, I'm going to have to go somewhere and sit for 3 hours, because it doesn't make sense at the time of day he has to be there for me to go back from there to home, back and forth.
Right, you'd be home for 20 minutes.
Exactly. So he said yes. He said, okay, no problem. And then I also really want to have my knee surgeries if possible, so that would put me out completely. So the first day came, and it was the day that the whole country had those really bad storms. And I'm sitting here working, and I was like, right, Mark picked him up, took him to school, brought I get a telephone call from HCC, the college Colin goes to, and saying they were closing all the classes, the evening classes. So 4 o'clock and on, the classes were canceled. So I pick up the phone, was going to call Mark and say, hey, this is going on. Colin calls me. Classes were canceled. I said, did you call your dad? No. I said, well, call your dad. And so he did. And he calls me back. Dad's in the middle of something, and he said he'll get me. It's just going to be a little bit. Okay, well, the school's going to close, right? They shut the school down. Doors get locked. Right, what's Colin going to do? Mark wasn't at his office, so it wasn't even like Colin could walk there, because that door's locked. So I got in my car, ran and got him. Not a big deal. Wasn't the end of the world. We made it back. 2 days later, next day of class, Mark has something else to do. And so he couldn't take him to class. So I had to take him to class, and I came back home, and all that worked out. So last week, at this point, we find out one of Colin's classes is canceled. So he only actually has to go for an hour and a half now.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, I told Colin, now if I only have to sit at a coffee shop for an hour, I don't care, right? I'll drive down there, just sit down there. I take my work computer, I work, I'm good, I'm completely functioned.
Right, that's
so anyways,
easy.
Yeah, easy. So okay, that's kind of a little bit backstory for everybody. So Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday or Thursday, one of the days. Colin and I are leaving the house. We just pulled out of our complex, and Colin's phone rings, and it's Mark. And I hear Colin say, well, Mom's taking me. We just left the apartment. And I hear it kind of get a little loud. So I was like, let me hear, Colin, let me talk to your dad, and we'll get this figured out. So Mark starts yelling at me. And just, I'm almost to your apartment, and this is so inconvenient, and I wish you guys would have told me. And I'm like, well, look, Colin should have told you. Colin is going to be 19. I don't have to tell you. Right? I don't have to communicate with you about our son in all aspects.
Right, like he's an adult.
He's an adult. He can do this. There are some things that we have to talk about, right? Some things we don't. This is one of those we don't. And he just kept going on. I am so close to your apartment, and I just did it. He just kept on. And he goes, it's just ridiculous. It's just so inconvenient. I was like, yeah, I know. That's all I said. Let it go. And of course, he diffuses at that moment. He gets off the phone.
Okay.
I had two choices in that moment. I could just say, yeah, I know. Or I could have said, well, yeah, let's see, last week was inconvenience when I had to go get him because of the storm. Yeah, it was inconvenient when I had to take him to class. Yeah, it was inconvenience 5 years ago when you didn't do this. Yeah, it's inconvenient you haven't showed up for Colin, and I have to worry about it. I could have done all that, but that would have been my ego. Right? That's me and my self-importance. To remind him who is important. Instead, it was just, yeah, I know. Right? You're right. It is inconvenient. I get that it was inconvenient. Right? Colin should have told you. But, no, Colin should have told you, and he didn't tell you. Shit happens.
Right? Like, so in that moment, nobody's looking for you to take accountability, right? You could have, like you said, gotten all up in your ego. You could have gotten defensive and oh, well, it was inconvenient when you didn't show up. And so if I can't rely on you, why do I need to consider you first? And you could have, rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. So if I want to have a successful relationship, if I love someone, then I want them to be happy, right? I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to cause them pain. I don't want to make them feel any negative way. I love them. I want them to be happy.
But I want you to say that a little differently, because it's not just about people we love, right? I don't love my ex-husband.
Right, it's anyone.
It's anyone. I don't want to, I'm not trying to go out here and intentionally make people feel less important or trying to make myself more important, right? The intention, that again, it goes back to being whether you're intentional or not. I think we should do that with everybody.
Right, I like how you said that. Okay, so to reevaluate the sentence I was going to say is, yes, I don't want to make anyone feel unhappy. When I talk about who I want to be love. I want to be kindness and compassionate. I want to be a light in a dark place. I want to be all of those things that I don't know how to say it. I want to be love. All of those things that describe the feeling of what you give to someone that you love. I want to be those things at all times.
And you want those things.
Yes, I want those things at all times also, yes. And when someone comes to me with something that they believe I did, whether it's true or not, right? If my kid comes to me and is like, gosh, I'm so mad at you. You never like me and you always yell at me. You're so mean. I'm not going to take that in and actually hear what they're saying. No, they don't hate me. What they're saying is they don't like my behavior right now and they feel like I am being mean. How can I look at that from my 12-year-old's perspective? Instead of how I can look at that from my perspective, which is, yeah, I'm mean. You don't like what I'm saying. You don't like having to do your chores. Too damn bad. Get your ass in there and do your chores. That's my ego. That's not me making her feel loved. That's not me being love. That's me being defensive. If I was being love, I would take in what she's saying and I would evaluate, am I actually being mean to her? Well, am I yelling? Am I demanding? Am I pointing my fingers? Yeah, those things are mean. Is there another way I could come at that? And then instead of being angry at her and being like, get your ass in there and do your chores, I could sit down and talk to her and say, you know, you're right. I was kind of being mean and I don't want to be mean. I was really frustrated because I've asked you to do your chores a bunch and it still hasn't been done. And I really need you to go do your chores so that I'm not whatever, right? Have that conversation. That allows their feelings to be heard and validated. That allows them to be seen. And it's still not me saying I was wrong. It's me acknowledging, yes, I got frustrated. And yes, maybe I yelled. And yeah, maybe I wasn't the nicest, most loving person. And I still need this.
HP, just he kills me sometimes. So, thank you for the Cam story, because that was something I needed to hear related to Colin. So one of the things, Colin is struggling this semester. He has one professor that is extremely, he's just the nightmare professor, where Colin actually has to hand write notes and scan them in. He's a millennial.
Like he can't type the notes? He has to handwrite them?
Yeah, exactly. He has to handwrite them and scan them. They
Okay.
cannot be typed. The professor normally they'll, especially with online class, there has to be discussion, so they'll you have to post. So in this class, he has to, usually it's post 5 times, reply to one person, you're 2 people, whatever, you're done. This professor is reply 5 posts, reply to 3, and then you have to reply to 2 that people replied to you.
So he's really requiring participation.
He is 100% requiring like it's in a classroom.
I have to kind of tell you, I like that.
I kind of, right, I do too, actually. But
Don't say that too
that's
loud
also-
because Colin hates
I know.
it.
Yes, he does. But it makes sense why I don't mind it and he hates it, right? Colin spent, 3 of his high school years were in COVID. He didn't go to high school. So for him, everything's been online. Right? He is a millennial. He doesn't know not having a cell phone.
Right.
He can whip up a post for class on his telephone or on his cell phone. Me, I'd have to pull out my computer and have a whole layout. Anyways, the whole point of this story of what I was going to say was, so he's really been grumbling a lot lately, and about how busy he is and how hard this is, and it's just so time consuming, and he's got to read more, and I have found myself saying to him more times than I would like to admit, but I'm going to admit it on here. I wish I had to do what you had to do.
Yeah.
I have to do this. Right? I would love to just worry about classes. No, I have to work, and I have to make sure you have food, and I've got to make sure the house is clean. I got to make sure this and
I tell Cam that all the time.
what is that? What am I doing?
We're dismissing their feelings.
Right? I'm letting my
100% invalidating what they're saying.
Yep. My ego is that I am more important than he is.
I mean, what you do is more difficult than what he does.
Yep.
And therefore, he should just suck it up and go do it and be okay with it.
But the part of it that I have to remember is Colin isn't even 19 yet. He's 18. He'll be 19 in a couple months. He's 18. I am 53. Of course my shit is harder. Right? We're not comparing apples and apples. Right? I'm 40 years or 35 years his senior. Right? I'm not saying what I'm saying.
I don't think you can compare it, right? They're totally different.
Exactly. Right? I could compare it if it was another 53-year-old person standing here and we had the exact same lifestyle and we but at the same time we don't have all the same experiences, even if we are the same age. Nothing is ever apples and apples. Everything is apples and oranges.
Well, and that's sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's comparison is the death of everything.
Yeah.
The only thing I can compare to is me to me yesterday.
Yep.
What were you going to finish? I'm sorry. I'm terrible about that.
No, I actually wasn't going to finish. I kept messing up my mute button, so it sounded like I was going to say something, and I wasn't. I just kept saying, I was agreeing with you, and then I kept saying, yeah, and then it was a whole thing. I'm struggling with technology.
Yes, I hear that. Yeah, no, so, I mean, that's the biggest thing, right, is in a communication with somebody else, in a conversation, in an argument, in a disagreement, in a fight, not so much how, because, right, the how is by everything we've talked about today, not dismissing, validating, but like how difficult it is and how do we go about not getting defensive, not taking what someone is saying so personally, right? I mean, it'd be ideal if every conversation was approached like, I feel insecure because I want more of your attention, instead of, you're spending a lot of time on your phone lately. But not everybody has the words to say, I feel insecure because I want more of your attention. That's usually what they mean. I know that's what I always meant when I was like, damn, something important on your phone. And instead of looking at the person and being like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just handling some work stuff. Let me put my phone down. Would you like to have a conversation? Can I help you? Do you need something? And focusing on that person, I would get defensive and be like, why are you worried about my phone? You're on your phone. That's like, how do we get to the point where we're not defensive and we are actually able to filter out the attack and hear the feelings?
I think it comes with a few things. I think self-awareness, meaning I need to be able to fully understand what I need and why I need it. Because if you don't know yourself, and we've had a couple of podcasts on understanding yourself. If I don't know what I need and what I want, I don't understand myself completely, because I'm very complex, I can't ask somebody else with clear and concise verbiage to give me what I need.
Right. How do we look past on the other side of that, when someone comes to us and they have horrible verbiage that makes us feel attacked? How do we let go of that defensiveness and put that ego aside and just hear their feelings behind it?
Well, and that's actually, again, I'm going to say, right, you have to know yourself. So I have to be connected with myself, because I have to be able to take what they're telling me, what they're saying to me, and I have to reword it in my head to make it
just like we do God.
Right?
Sorry, for anybody that doesn't know, that just hit me. For anybody that doesn't know, I personally struggled for a very long time with the word God. Anytime the word was spoken, I would cringe. It was a trigger. And I had to learn how to create this filter in my brain that when somebody said the word God, I turned that word into my higher power. That one word was turned into those 3 words in my brain. There was I don't know how to describe it other than there was this filter where somebody would say the word God and I would hear the word God, but before it reached my processing system, the word God was transferred into my higher power.
It's almost like a strainer. You know how
Right. So what you're saying, and I love it, what you're saying is we have to find a way to filter the attack and just hear the emotions.
Yes. So have you ever had a conversation with someone let's say we're going to use it in recovery here first. So working with a sponsee, and they will tell you something and you don't hear what they say, but you hear the in-between of what they say.
All the time.
That is what we have to do with somebody else. But that comes from being able to put my ego aside. And the way I put my ego aside is to know myself, to know my own worth, that no one else gives me my worth. I am important just by being Dawn. And I don't need to put that out there and show everybody else how great I am. That's an internal something I have to know. And when I know that, and I live by that, and I'm most of the time successful with that, I'm not perfect, right? And that's why I want to say most of the time I'm successful with that. I can hear what someone's saying and not get upset. And I can put myself in their shoes to know, okay, yeah, that, in the case of Mark, yeah, it is really, really annoying when you expect one thing and then something else happens. I get it.
Right? And I think another thing that we have to add into that is very, very important. And other people's thoughts or opinions about us being none of our business, right? It's for me, I have to take out what the other person thinks my intention was, because if they think I meant to do something to hurt them, I tend to get defensive because I never mean to hurt anybody. So if I take out what they think about me out of the equation, then I'm more able to hear what they are feeling and respond to how they feel rather than responding to what they think about me.
When we look at how do we get rid of and deal with our ego? I think that's the thing. How do you navigate through letting go of your ego?
I don't think getting rid of our ego completely is the answer. I think that our ego, I think that it is, oh, I don't know how to say it. It's that mask, right? We have to have that safety. We have to have that mask sometimes, like when we go to work and we have to be professional. We have to have that ego then. I have to be able to have some sort of self-confidence and self-perception, right? Self-importance. If I don't have that in some way, shape, or form, then I don't think I'm thinking positively of myself. I don't know if that makes sense.
Freud has this thing where it was ego, it's ID, ego, and superego. And ego is the balance in between ID and superego. So, and here's examples. I'll use actually examples instead of the definition. So, ID is very all about me. I want to do this now. Superego is it's not right to do that. So the right and the wrong, the black and the white. And ego is that maybe we can compromise, middle ground.
Right.
So I'm wondering, we're not talking about full on ego, because ego is a balance. Is it ID, right? It's the me, the I part of it.
Yeah, I think at least, right, none of this is like a set in stone, right? Like the color red is the color red is the color red. It doesn't matter what perception you have. It doesn't matter if you're colorblind. It doesn't matter. The color red is still the color red. Even if you don't see it as red, it is still red. I don't believe that when we talk about things like ego and love, that's the case. I think when we talk about things like ego, there's no set, right? Like what Freud believes may be different from what someone else believes. I don't know any new counselors, but it could be different, right? I think for me, the ego is a balance. It is the protector, it is the defender, but it is also, if it gets out of control, the thing that allows, I don't know how to say it, it's the thing that allows us to get defensive and get in the way.
Yeah, so I'm picturing a scale as you're talking, right? So if I'm in this balance where my scales are at the same level, right? That is my sweet spot.
Right.
Where I am, right, where I'm good. I can filter, I can strain what people are saying. I'm not giving too much of me when I go off balance on the right. But I'm also on the left. I'm not like, well, I did this and you didn't do this, right? On the left, right? That's what I'm picturing. Like,
right.
It's like that off kilter part of it. But if I stay in that sweet spot, that balance, that doesn't mean anybody's wrong or I'm wrong or less than or anything like that. It's this balance.
Yeah, it's like I'm able to hear someone else and I'm able to see myself at the same time. It's like Michelle Chalfant says, sitting in the adult chair. I don't know any other real way to describe it, right? It's being able to put aside my defensiveness and I have to be good, my competition, right? We're always in competition to be better than somebody else or as good as somebody else, or being able to put that aside.
And I don't think you have to it's not putting it aside. It's because I don't feel like I'm putting, it's like I don't want it to be there. Right? I want it to
Right.
be, I want it, I want to know that I am what I know my own worth, know my own value, and know that no one else has an impact on my self-worth.
Right. Even if what I am doing is causing someone else to feel insecure or unimportant. Let's just go with the phone thing, right? That's a thing that everybody deals with in the day to day lives. Even if the fact that I am on my phone too often is assisting in my significant other feeling like they are not important, not as important as my phone, I do not need to get defensive. I do not need to take that in as I am making them unimportant. Unimportant. I can choose to take that in and say, okay, you feel unimportant. What things can I do? What things do I want to do to assist you in feeling less unimportant? Maybe I'm doing a project and I can't stop being on my phone. Maybe I am not doing a project and I could put my phone down and come cook dinner with you. Maybe I have to spend the next 3 days doing this project, but as soon as this project's done, we're going to go get a cabin for the weekend and spend some one-on-one time together. There's a million different ways to process that. And in my opinion, it is very, very important that we let go 100%, not just put aside, let go of I didn't do wrong. It's not my fault. It's not about blame. It just is.
I know I keep going back to self, but I do believe that is important. And you said something early when you started talking about the I'm on my phone and I'm sitting here and you were saying about I put my phone down, right? So how did you say that? Shoot, you were
Like I'm sitting here and I'm playing on my phone.
oh, the person was saying that to you.
Yes.
Like I don't feel important, but you're on your phone and I just want to spend some time with you. It makes me feel unimportant. Why can't we say that to ourselves? Why can't, when I'm on my phone, right, and sitting here scrolling and scrolling, why can't I say to myself, "Hey Dawn, right, I really don't feel important right now. Can you put your phone down?"
I have started. It's so crazy that you say that. Yesterday was Saturday. I was homesick Thursday. I left work early. I was homesick Thursday, Friday. I was still recovering yesterday. I didn't leave my house. I think I went to the grocery store for an hour and that was it. I literally did not do anything for 2 days. And yesterday afternoon, I'm just scrolling through my phone. I'd run out of all the lives on my games. All of my games needed time. I'd ran through Facebook. I'd played on TikTok. I'd been scrolling for hours. And all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, but something was just like, hey, put my phone down. Go write. And I did. I just went and journaled about what I was feeling and what I was thinking and just where I was. And that was honestly the first time that I can remember that I had decided that I wanted to spend intentional time with myself, out of the blue, right? It wasn't planned. It wasn't part of my meditation. I wasn't just having a conversation because something was happening. I actually just wanted to spend time with myself. And I think it's because I've finally built a relationship with myself.
And so you found your own, right? I think that's having a relationship with yourself kind of And I don't mean it the way this is going to, like, it minimizes the need for other outside relationships.
Yes.
If I have a good and healthy relationship with me, that doesn't mean I don't want them. That doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, I never need to have another relationship, whether it's platonic, friends, it's a romantic or what it is. It just means that in those down times, I have a great relationship with me, and so now I'm okay.
Right? Instead of getting bored and deciding to sign up for a dating site or go to the bar or go text some guy,
Yep.
instead of getting bored and looking for someone else to fill me up, I decided to take care of it myself. I decided that I wanted to spend time with me. And I think that that's your exact words, minimize the need. I think those are perfect because for so long there was this need, this desperate need inside of me to have to find someone else. I needed another human being, whether that be my kid, my friend, my significant other, it didn't matter. I needed another human being in order to be okay. And I don't anymore. Listen, it would suck. I would hate to not have the people I love in my life. I would absolutely hate it. It would be heartbreaking and traumatizing and horrible. And I would survive. I don't need other people to make me okay anymore.
So that means your sense of self-esteem and self-worth are all guided and originate in you. And so you don't need anybody externally to give you that.
Yeah.
And that's how you let go of ego.
Does it really all go back to building that relationship with yourself? Does everything really go back to that?
Yeah.
Building a relationship
really
with
does.
myself and my higher power. It's crazy how it all leads back to building a relationship with myself. Because I can't build one with my higher power if I don't have one with myself either, you know?
Right?
Gosh, that's so mind-blowing sometimes.
And then I think it goes into, and I know this will eventually be a conversation, is our expectations of others. Right? If I am good within me and I have built a healthy, loving relationship with myself, my expectations of others actually
Change dramatically.
Yeah.
They tend to go away.
Right? And that goes back to completely in the beginning what we were, kind of saying is if I am good, all is good.
Yeah. And right, if I have confidence in myself, if I am doing my best each and every day, then when somebody comes to me with a hurt or a grievance, I don't feel the need to be defensive because I know I have done my best. And it's okay if I made a mistake. My best now is to take accountability for that mistake and show what I actually want. Really, building that relationship with myself is the only thing that changed all that.
Some pretty powerful stuff when you think about it.
It's a hell of a conversation. Thank you, Dawn.
Right. I'm over here and I'm like, for a minute here, I'm a little distracted because I'm thinking, like, when Colin gets up, I need to have a conversation with him. I owe him an apology. I'm not going to just say I'm sorry. I owe him an apology because I have minimized his things and I want to own up to that because I can be vulnerable and not take away from me.
Giving to someone else does not take away from me. Thank you so much for another amazing podcast. Listeners, Dawn, thank you.
Yeah, this was a good one. We were all over the place, but man, this was a good one.
I feel like it stuck, right? We were all over the place, but it also always stuck with ego. And gosh, I love it when we have these conversations like this without all the pre-planning ahead of time or the pre-talk. Like, I know sometimes we'll talk for like an hour before we get on the podcast.
Yeah, we do.
And I think that I don't know, this is so much more natural flow with us.
Yeah, I think so too. This was good. Because, I have some things to take away and think about and work on. So which is what this is about. So
Me too. All right. Thank you so
All right,
much,
everyone.
Dawn.
Thank you, Ashley.
Bye.
Bye.
We would like to thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Visit the Work It website at workitYouAreWorthIt.com to submit your questions and topics for future episodes. And remember, work it because you are worth it.